The gleaming silver hull of the Galactic Confederation vessel cast long shadows across Earth's International Combat Academy as it descended. General Vrex, Supreme Commander of the Confederation's elite forces, emerged from the ship with calculated precision, his iridescent scales shifting colors under Earth's sunlight. Behind him, a retinue of officers followed, their cybernetic enhancements humming quietly in the morning air. Commander Sarah Chen waited at the bottom of the landing pad, her weathered combat uniform a stark contrast to the aliens' sleek biomechanical suits. At 53, she stood with the quiet confidence of someone who had spent decades perfecting her craft. The academy sprawled behind her, a seemingly modest collection of buildings that blended seamlessly into the Montana wilderness. "This is it." Vrex's translator conveyed his disappointment perfectly. His auxiliary eyes scanned the facility, cybernetic implants calculating and dismissing everything they saw. The famous Earth Combat Academy. I expected something more. Impressive from a species seeking Confederation membership. Chen's expression remained neutral, her hands clasped behind her back. "Would you like to observe a training session, General?" Vrex made a sound that his translator didn't bother converting. Clearly a dismissal. "I've reviewed your species' combat capabilities extensively. Primitive projectile weapons, limited genetic engineering, no neural enhancement programs. How do you expect to contribute to Confederation security?" Around them, students continued their morning routines. Some practiced hand-to-hand combat in outdoor rings. Others ran obstacle courses that seemed deceptively simple. None appeared to pay any attention to the alien delegation. But Chen knew better. Her students missed nothing. Perhaps a demonstration. Chen gestured toward one of the training grounds. "You can select any test you'd like." Vrex's primary eyes narrowed while his auxiliary pair continued scanning. "Very well. Let's see how your best students handle our standard combat assessment. No need for your primitive weapons. We'll provide appropriate equipment." Chen nodded once, tapping her wrist communicator. "Squad 7, report to main training ground." Within minutes, 6 humans appeared, their movements fluid and coordinated. They wore standard training uniforms, no visible technology, no obvious enhancements. To Vrex's cybernetic analysis, they registered as completely ordinary humans. "These are your elite." Vrex gestured to his officers, who began distributing Confederation combat suits to the humans. The suits alone contain more computing power than your entire facility. Chen watched as her students examined the alien technology with what appeared to be wonder and confusion. She caught the barely perceptible glance from Maya, Squad 7's leader, and allowed herself a moment of pride. They were already analyzing, adapting, understanding. The test began simply enough. Holographic targets appeared across the training ground, moving at increasingly impossible speeds. The Confederation officers stepped back, expecting to see the humans stumble in their advanced suits, overwhelmed by the neural interfaces and enhanced reaction times. Instead, Squad 7 moved like water. They flowed through the course with a grace that seemed to defy the very technology they wore. Where the suits were programmed for optimal efficiency, straight lines and calculated trajectories, the humans added something else. They spun, rolled, and leaped in ways that the suit's programming hadn't anticipated. Vrex's auxiliary eyes wavered as they tried to track the squad's movements. Impossible. They couldn't have mastered the neural interfaces so quickly. Chen remained silent as her students completed the course with scores that rivaled the Confederation's best. She could see the confusion in the alien officers' postures, the way their cybernetic enhancements were working overtime to analyze what they were seeing. "Another test," Vrex demanded, his scales now a deep purple of frustration. "Combat simulation, full contact. My officers against your squad." Chen raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure that's wise, General? Your students handled the technology well enough, I'll grant you that. But real combat against superior beings, that will show their true limitations." Vrex's translator couldn't quite capture the complexity of his tone, somewhere between condescension and growing uncertainty. The training ground transformed as holographic barriers created an urban combat environment. Vrex's officers, 8 of them, spread out with the confident precision of soldiers who had fought across 1,000 worlds. Their biomechanical armor hummed with power, sensors mapping every corner of the battlefield. Squad 7 simply waited, standing in loose formation, their borrowed combat suits now moving with them as naturally as their own skin. Chen watched as Maya caught each squad member's eye, silent communications passing between them that no neural interface could detect. What followed would be analyzed by Confederation military experts for years to come. Squad 7 didn't just fight. They rewrote the rules of engagement with every move. Where the Confederation officers expected direct confrontation, they found empty space. When they anticipated retreat, they met advance. The humans moved not as individual soldiers, but as a single organism adapting in real time. The borrowed combat suits, designed to enhance and protect, became tools of creative destruction in human hands. They pushed the technology beyond its parameters, finding ways to use the suit's limitations as advantages. A safety protocol became a makeshift shield generator. A neural interface delay transformed into an improvised cloaking device. In less than 10 minutes, all 8 Confederation officers were neutralized. Squad 7 stood calmly in the center of the training ground, their borrowed suits now displaying wear patterns that should have been impossible under normal use. Vrex's scales had shifted to a pale gray, a sign of deep disturbance in his species. What did you do to our equipment? Chen finally allowed herself a small smile. We didn't do anything to it, General. We simply used it. Humans don't need neural enhancement programs or genetic engineering to understand combat. We've been studying it since we first picked up stones as weapons. Everything you see here, every student, every training method, is built on thousands of years of human warfare experience. But our analysis, your technological level, Vrex's auxiliary eyes had stopped scanning, fixed now on Chen with new awareness. Technology is a tool, General. A useful one, certainly, but the most dangerous weapon any soldier can possess. Chen gestured to her students, who were already removing the combat suits with precise, practiced movements. Their mind. And that's what we train here. Not how to use weapons, but how to think, how to adapt, how to turn any situation to their advantage. As Squad 7 departed the training ground as quietly as they had arrived, Chen turned fully to face the alien commander. You came here expecting to find primitive warriors playing at combat, General Vrex. What you found instead was something your advanced analysis couldn't quantify. The true nature of human combat potential. We don't need cybernetic enhancement to improve our abilities. We simply need to understand them. The implications of what he had witnessed were beginning to sink in. Vrex's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a deep blue of realization. He had come to evaluate Earth's military readiness for Confederation membership. Instead, he had discovered something far more significant and potentially far more dangerous. Commander Chen. Vrex's translator struggled to convey his complex tone. I believe I need to revise my initial assessment of your facility, and perhaps our understanding of human military capabilities in general. Chen nodded once, her expression returning to its neutral state. That would be wise, General. That would be very wise indeed. General Vrex returned the next day, this time without his entourage. His scales had settled into a contemplative blue-green as he found Commander Chen in what appeared to be a simple meditation garden. Students sat cross-legged on stone platforms, their eyes closed, while others moved through fluid forms that seemed more dense than combat. I spent all night analyzing yesterday's data, Vrex said, his auxiliary eyes whirring as they recorded everything. It shouldn't have been possible. Our combat suits require months of neural synchronization training. Chen didn't look up from the ancient book in her hands. Actual paper, Vrex noted with surprise. Tell me, General, what do you see when you look at my students right now? Inactivity. Inefficient use of training time. Your warriors should be. Look again. Chen interrupted, finally closing her book. But this time, turn off your cybernetic enhancements. Use your primary eyes only. Vrex hesitated, then complied. Without his technological filters, the scene transformed. The students weren't simply sitting or moving randomly. They were pulsing with a subtle rhythm. Even the air seemed to move differently around them. We call this the quiet hour, Chen explained, standing with fluid grace. While your soldiers train their bodies to interface with machines, we teach ours to interface with something far more complex, their own consciousness. A student nearby shifted stance, and Vrex watched in fascination as others throughout the garden responded with minute adjustments of their own, like ripples in a pond. Some kind of synchronized neural network. Something older, something deeper. Chen began walking, gesturing for Vrex to follow. Humanity spent millennia developing ways to maximize our natural abilities. While other species rushed to enhance themselves with technology, we learned to unlock what was already there. They passed through several training areas, each more puzzling than the last. In one, students fought blindfolded against automated drones, their movements anticipating attacks before they came. In another, warriors practiced with what appeared to be primitive wooden weapons against cutting-edge combat robots. Yesterday wasn't about mastering your combat suits, Chen continued. My students didn't need to. They simply needed to understand the basic principles behind them. The human mind is remarkably adaptable when properly trained. Vrex stopped at a particular station where a single student faced off against a holographic army. This one, her neural patterns are extraordinary. His auxiliary eyes struggled to track the woman's movements. Ah, Maya. Chen smiled slightly. Squad 7's leader. She's been with us since she was 12. Watch closely. Maya moved through the holographic soldiers like smoke, each motion flowing seamlessly into the next. Where the computer predicted she would dodge right, she was already attacking from the left. When simulated weapons fired, she seemed to bend reality itself to avoid them. Impossible, Vrex muttered. Even our most advanced prediction algorithms can't. That's precisely the point, General. Chen's voice carried a hint of steel now. You rely on algorithms, on predictable patterns. We teach our students to be unpredictable, to tap into something your machines can't quantify. Human intuition. The demonstration continued as Maya systematically dismantled the holographic army. Her movements defied conventional combat logic, yet achieved results that even Vrex's advanced tactical processors had to admire. The Confederation believes that superior technology equals superior warfare, Chen said, leading Vrex to her office, a surprisingly sparse room with walls covered in ancient martial arts scrolls. But technology is predictable. It follows rules, patterns, protocols. Human beings, when properly trained, do not. Vrex's scales shifted to a deep purple of frustration. But our analysis of Earth's military capabilities was based on what we wanted you to see. Chen activated a holographic display, showing training methods that made Vrex's auxiliary eyes reset themselves in disbelief. This facility isn't just about creating warriors, General. It's about preserving and advancing humanity's understanding of combat in its purest form. The display showed students practicing techniques that seemed to defy physics, not through technology, but through perfect understanding of body mechanics and mental discipline. Others demonstrated an ability to communicate and coordinate without any visible signals or technological assistance. You're creating some kind of super soldiers, Vrex accused, his scales now cycling through colors rapidly. Chen shook her head. No, General. We're simply helping humans become what they've always been capable of being. Your species rushed to enhance yourselves with technology because you saw your natural state as limited. We chose a different path. A distant explosion rocked the facility. Chen's communication device activated immediately. Commander, we have multiple unauthorized Confederation ships entering Earth's atmosphere. They're demanding immediate surrender of the facility. Vrex's scales paled. I didn't authorize. Of course you didn't. Chen was already moving, her previous calm replaced by focused intensity. But someone in your command structure saw yesterday's demonstration and decided we were too dangerous to be allowed to continue. She activated a facility-wide communication channel. All students, implementation protocol Sigma. This is not a drill. The transformation was immediate and astonishing. The peaceful training facility shifted into a combat-ready fortress with an efficiency that made Vrex's tactical processors strain to keep up. Students moved with purpose, their earlier serenity replaced by lethal focus. "You have a choice to make, General," Chen said, fixing him with a steady gaze. "You can either help us resolve this diplomatically, or you can watch as my students demonstrate exactly why attempting to subjugate humanity would be the greatest mistake the Confederation could make." Vrex's scales settled into a deep blue of decision as another explosion lit up the morning sky. He had come to Earth expecting to find primitive warriors. Instead, he had discovered something far more significant. And now he had to decide which side of history he wanted to be on. The sky above the Academy blazed with energy weapons as 3 Confederation warships descended through the clouds. Their massive hulls, bristling with defensive systems and attack drones, cast ominous shadows over the facility. Commander Chen watched from her office window. Maya and Squad 7 assembled behind her. "Battle formations Delta through Kappa are in position," Maya reported, her voice steady. "All students accounted for and ready. No casualties from the initial strikes." Vrex's auxiliary eyes were working overtime, scanning communications frequencies. This is insanity. Commander Zextal is overstepping his authority. The Confederation Council never authorized. "Your politics don't concern me, General," Chen interrupted, turning from the window. "What concerns me is protecting my students and this facility. Will you help us end this peacefully, or do we demonstrate why attacking the Human Combat Academy was monumentally unwise?" Before Vrex could respond, a holographic projection filled the room. Commander Zextal's enormous reptilian face, scales glowing with aggressive red patterns. "Surrender the facility," Zextal's translator boomed. "Your primitive combat techniques, while impressive, cannot stand against 3 warships. We will not allow Earth to develop weapons that could threaten Confederation stability." Chen stepped forward, her presence somehow filling the room despite her smaller stature. "We are not weapons, Commander Zextal. We are teachers and students. But if you force this confrontation, you will learn why humanity survived countless wars without needing to augment ourselves with technology." Zextal's laugh came through as static. "You have 10 minutes to surrender, or we will reduce your facility to ash." The projection vanished. Chen turned to Maya. "Implement Scenario 17. Maya's eyes widened slightly, the first sign of emotion she'd shown. "Are you sure, Commander? We've never attempted it outside of simulations. There's a first time for everything." Chen's smile was razor-sharp. "General Vrex, I suggest you stay here. What you're about to witness might challenge your understanding of human capabilities." Squad 7 moved with practiced precision, their movements so coordinated they seemed to share a single consciousness. Through the window, other students took positions that seemed random to Vrex's tactical analysis, but tickled something in his instincts, a warning that he was missing crucial variables. The warships launched their first wave of attack drones, hundreds of automated weapons platforms designed to overwhelm any defense system. Vrex's auxiliary eyes tracked their approach, calculating that no unaugmented human could possibly react fast enough to counter them. He was wrong. The students moved like a living tide. Where Confederation tactics relied on technology and brute force, the humans flowed like water around the attacks. They didn't just evade. They redirected, turned the drone's own momentum and programming against them. Each movement was precisely calculated to cause maximum chaos in the automated attack patterns. "Impossible," Vrex muttered as he watched dozens of drones crash into each other, their friend or foe recognition systems corrupted by the humans' unconventional movements. Those maneuvers should have been predictable, counterable. That's the problem with relying too heavily on technology, General, Chen said, watching as her students systematically dismantled the drone attack. It makes you predictable. Humans, we're anything but. Squad 7 had reached their designated positions. Maya raised her hand, and Vrex watched in astonishment as the squad executed a series of movements that seemed to ripple through the very air. The remaining drones suddenly lost altitude, their control systems scrambled by something his sensors couldn't detect. "What are they doing?" Vrex demanded, his scales shifting to a confused yellow. "Converting kinetic energy into electromagnetic pulses," Chen explained casually. "An ancient technique, adapted for modern warfare. No technology required, just precise understanding of energy flow and synchronized movement." Above them, the warship's shields flickered as waves of disruption, created purely through human movement and understanding of physics, washed over them. Zextal's voice crackled through the communication system, now tinged with uncertainty. "What sorcery is this? Our systems are detecting no weapons." "That's because we are the weapons," Chen responded calmly. "Each student here has spent years learning to manipulate energy in ways your technology can't comprehend. Surrender now, Commander, or discover firsthand why Earth's combat traditions have survived millennia." As if to emphasize her point, Squad 7 executed another synchronized movement. The nearest warship's engines sputtered and died, its sophisticated systems overwhelmed by harmonics that defied Confederation science. "This is your final warning," Chen continued. "The next demonstration won't just disable your ships, it will tear them apart. And unlike your drones, we won't miss." Vrex watched as his tactical displays went haywire, unable to process what they were seeing. The students moved with impossible precision, each motion amplifying the others until the very air seemed to vibrate with potential energy. His species had spent centuries perfecting warfare through technology, yet here were humans achieving similar results through pure skill and understanding. Zextal's voice returned, now noticeably strained. "How? This isn't possible. Our analysis showed." "Your analysis was wrong," Chen cut him off. "You looked for technology, for weapons, for things you could understand and quantify. You'd never considered that the human body and mind, properly trained, could be more sophisticated than any machine." The remaining warship shields were failing, their crews reporting system-wide malfunctions as waves of perfectly tuned energy disrupted their technology. Vrex realized with growing amazement that the humans weren't just defending. They were systematically demonstrating their ability to render Confederation military technology useless. "Stand down, Zextal." Vrex finally spoke up, his scales now a deep blue of comprehension. "You've already lost. You just don't realize it yet." A tense moment passed as the warships hovered, their weapons still armed but now seemingly useless against an enemy they couldn't properly fight. Chen watched calmly, her students maintaining their positions with unwavering focus, ready to unleash techniques that had been perfected over thousands of years of human combat evolution. The galaxy was about to learn a crucial lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't the most advanced technology, but rather the disciplined mind that understands how to defeat it. Commander Zextal's surrender came not with a bang, but with a whisper of failing engines and disabled weapon systems. As his warships hung powerless in the morning sky, Chen's students maintained their positions, their synchronized movements creating an invisible web of disrupting energy that held the Confederation forces in check. "I don't understand," Zextal's voice crackled through failing communications. "Our technology, it's generations ahead of anything Earth has produced." "That's precisely why you failed," Chen replied, watching as Squad 7 began a new series of movements that seemed to stabilize the crippled ships, preventing them from falling. "You assumed technological superiority meant tactical superiority. A dangerous mistake." Vrex stepped forward, his scales now a deep green of understanding. "The Confederation needs to know about this, not as a threat, but as a revelation. We've been approaching warfare completely wrong." Chen nodded to Maya, who led Squad 7 in a complex sequence that gently guided the warships to land in the Academy's outer fields. The other students maintained their positions, their disciplined movements continuing to neutralize any potential threat from the advanced alien vessels. Your species dedicated itself to enhancing the body, Chen explained as they walked to meet the landing ships. Cybernetic implants, neural interfaces, biomechanical augmentations. But you never fully explored the potential of the unaugmented mind and body. The warship's hatches opened, revealing confused and somewhat frightened Confederation troops. Their advanced combat suits, worth more than entire Earth cities, had been rendered nearly useless by techniques they couldn't detect or counter. How long? Zextal demanded as he emerged, his massive frame towering over Chen. How long have humans possessed this capability? We've always had it, Chen replied simply. These techniques were developed thousands of years ago, refined through countless generations. What you saw today was simply the modern application of ancient knowledge. Maya approached, her movements still fluid and controlled. Commander, the ships are secured. Their crews are unharmed, but thoroughly confused about how their technology was overcome by, as they put it, primitive movements. Vrex's auxiliary eyes had finally stopped trying to analyze the human's techniques. The calculations simply didn't make sense to his enhanced processors. The Confederation's entire combat doctrine is based on technological superiority. If humans can neutralize that advantage, then perhaps it's time for the Confederation to learn a different way. Chen finished. She turned to address both alien commanders. What you witnessed wasn't just about combat. It was about understanding. Understanding energy, movement, the connection between mind and matter that your species abandoned in favor of artificial enhancement. Around them, students began standing down from their combat positions, though their movements remained precisely controlled. The morning sun highlighted the contrast between the sleek, powered armor of the Confederation troops and the simple training uniforms of Chen's students. Impossible, one of Zextal's officers muttered, his cybernetic implants still trying to make sense of what had happened. 3 warships, disabled without a single shot fired. Not disabled, Chen corrected. Overcome. There's a difference. We didn't destroy your technology. We simply showed you its limitations. The human body, properly trained, can achieve things no machine can replicate. Vrex moved closer to examine one of the students demonstrating a basic form. His auxiliary eyes recorded the movement, but his tactical processors couldn't explain how such simple motions could generate the effects they'd witnessed. The Confederation Council will want a full explanation, he said finally. They'll want to understand how this is possible. Chen's smile was knowing. Understanding isn't about analysis or data, General. It's about experience. Perhaps it's time for the Confederation to send students rather than soldiers. The implications of her words hung in the morning air. The gathered aliens watched as Chen's students began their normal training routines again, their movements a dance of perfectly controlled energy that had just defeated one of the galaxy's most advanced military forces. Your people have a choice to make, Chen continued, addressing both commanders. You can leave here seeing us as a threat to be contained, or as teachers with knowledge your civilization has forgotten. The question is, are you willing to learn? Zextal's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a deep blue matching Vrex. The Confederation has always prided itself on advancing beyond primitive methods, he said slowly. But perhaps we advanced past something vital. The human mind, Vrex added, watching a group of students move through forms that somehow made his advanced sensors malfunction. We assumed it needed enhancement to reach its full potential, but you've proven it already had capabilities we never imagined. Chen nodded to Maya, who began assembling Squad 7 for a demonstration. Watch carefully, she told the alien commanders. What you're about to see isn't about power or technology. It's about understanding the fundamental forces that shape our universe, understanding that your ancestors once had but lost in their rush to advance. As Squad 7 began their demonstration, the alien officers watched in fascinated silence. Their technological superiority, the very foundation of their military doctrine, had been challenged not by better weapons or stronger defenses, but by a deeper understanding of principles their civilization had forgotten. The age of assuming technological advancement equaled superiority was over. A new chapter in galactic military philosophy was about to begin, written not with plasma weapons and neural interfaces, but with the rediscovery of the ultimate weapon, the trained human mind. 3 months after the failed attack on Earth's Combat Academy, the facility had changed. Alongside human students practicing their ancient arts, Confederation observers now sat in quiet contemplation, their cybernetic enhancements powered down as they struggled to understand warfare without technology. Commander Chen stood in her office, watching as Maya led a mixed class of humans and aliens through basic forms. General Vrex stood beside her, his scales a peaceful blue-green, auxiliary eyes inactive for the first time since his arrival on Earth. The Confederation Council's latest report arrived this morning. Vrex said quietly, "They're still trying to understand how we got it so wrong, how we missed the true nature of human combat potential." "You were looking for the wrong things," Chen replied, watching as Maya corrected an alien student's stance. "Your civilization measures progress by technological advancement. We measure it by understanding." Below, a young Confederation officer attempted to mirror Maya's movements. His cybernetic implants sparked in frustration as he tried to generate the same energy disruption fields the humans could create naturally. "Zextol's trial begins next week," Vrex continued. "The Council wants to understand why he acted without authorization. But I think they're asking the wrong question." Chen turned from the window. "Oh, the real question isn't why he attacked. It's why we all assumed technology made us superior." Vrex's primary eyes focused on an ancient scroll hanging on Chen's wall. 3 months of observation, and we still barely understand how your students do what they do." A soft chime interrupted them. Maya's voice came through the communication system. "Commander, the Andromeda Group has arrived for their assessment." Chen smiled slightly. "Ah yes, our latest diplomatic visitors. Care to join us, General? I think you'll find their reaction interesting." They made their way to the main training ground, where a delegation of tall, crystalline beings waited. The Andromedans were famous for their purely energy-based technology, having evolved beyond physical weapons millennia ago. "Welcome to Earth's Combat Academy," Chen greeted them. "I understand you're here to evaluate our training methods." The lead Andromedan, a being of pure light and crystal, pulsed with skepticism. "We have reviewed the Confederation's reports. They seem improbable. Surely unaugmented organic beings cannot manipulate energy fields without technology." Chen nodded to Maya, who assembled Squad 7. "Why don't we show you?" What followed was a demonstration that would reshape galactic understanding of combat potential. Squad 7 moved through their forms, but this time they weren't disrupting technology. They were interacting directly with the Andromedans' energy fields. The crystalline beings pulsed with astonishment as the humans demonstrated an innate understanding of energy manipulation that rivaled their own evolved capabilities. Without technology, without genetic enhancement, the students wove patterns in the very fabric of reality. "Impossible," the Andromedan leader whispered, their crystalline form flickering with emotion. "This defies all known principles of energy manipulation." "No," Chen corrected gently. "It defies your understanding of those principles. Humanity never needed technology to comprehend the fundamental forces of the universe. We simply needed to listen, to learn, to understand our own potential." Vrex watched the demonstration with new appreciation. His species had spent centuries trying to replicate such abilities through technology, never realizing that the capability existed naturally within sentient beings. "The galaxy is changing," he said quietly to Chen. "Word of your academy's abilities has spread. More species are questioning their reliance on technological enhancement." Chen nodded, watching as her students continued their demonstration. "Change is inevitable. The question is whether we learn from it." Your civilization chose to enhance itself beyond its natural limits. We chose to understand those limits, to work with them rather than trying to overcome them. The Unbeknownst delegation pulsed with increasing agitation as Squad 7 demonstrated more complex techniques. These weren't just combat moves. They were expressions of universal principles that transcended traditional military doctrine. "We request," the Unbeknownst leader announced suddenly, their crystalline form shimmering with excitement, "to establish a permanent diplomatic presence at this facility. There is much we need to learn." Chen shared a knowing look with Rex. In 3 months, the Academy had gone from being seen as a primitive training facility to becoming one of the most important diplomatic destinations in the galaxy. Species that had looked down on unenhanced humans now sent their best and brightest to learn. "The universe has a way of teaching humility," Chen said to the assembled aliens. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to understand, to adapt, to see beyond the obvious to the fundamental truths that shape reality." As if to emphasize her point, Squad 7 completed their demonstration with a movement that created ripples of pure energy, visible even to unaugmented eyes. The Andromedans pulsed with amazement, their crystalline forms resonating with the humans' generated fields. "We thought we needed to improve ourselves through artificial means," Vrex reflected, watching the display. "But you showed us that true improvement comes from understanding what we already are." Chen smiled as she watched her students bow to their audience. Around the facility, more classes were beginning. Humans teaching aliens, sharing knowledge that had been preserved through countless generations. The galaxy was learning that sometimes the most advanced civilization isn't the one with the most technology, but the one that truly understands itself. "This is just the beginning," she said quietly. "Humanity has much to teach, and much still to learn. The question isn't whether we're ready for the galaxy. It's whether the galaxy is ready for what humanity has always known." Above them, Earth's sun set on a new era of galactic civilization. The age of technological superiority was ending, replaced by something older, deeper, and infinitely more powerful: the understanding of what it truly means to be human.